live again. Yes.
Yeah. Now we have chat.
Now we can, if you guys say something, we can probably see it. Look, Minute Maid Muscle is in Pro Charge Mopar. What's going on, guys? How are we tonight? It's hot out here. It's what, 175, 180 degrees?
Yeah, we did melt some tires. They were just sitting in the asphalt melting.
Oh, yeah. Like, please. Dickie Farley, Fubar the Axe. What's going on, my brother? Uncle Squirrel, what's happening, brother? How are you? Sam Mountain Ballistics, how's that 63 Poncho going? Donnie and Wendy English, Tom Hughes, Don Trudell. Ahri, what's happening, brother? Dakota, give that guy a time out. Nathaniel, Menzies, the Dirty Knobs, what's happening? Marco Ciccarelli. Jason's Garage. Okay, well, did I forget anybody? Hemi Sidekick, Mopar Man 78, Mopar Mark 0. Brian M. Only 75 here. No, it's only 75 degrees. Where are you, man? Creekside Garage, hotter than two rats screwing in a wool sock. Yep. All right. Good. Okay, Ahri's already slammed Dakota, so that's good. You know, we've got to keep the youth in line, right?
That Dakota must be a serious problem.
Yeah, he is. Jay Schlag, George Bonnie missed third. I missed third. Dirty Knobs, Brian M. Okay. So what's that? Roll up your windows.
Zero saying I'm stuck at work.
So are we.
Yeah, we're at work too.
We're at work.
Fubar put the link to AHRA page.
Yep.
So nab some merchandise or membership.
AHRA online. Steve Pastori, Steve Bico. Uncle Tori. Okay, so this is a message from Ultra Kathy, who's at a different location. She says that tell everyone our merch will be coming tomorrow. Yes, we had a little delay with merch. Anybody who ordered stuff in the last week or two, we had some delays. So it'll be coming tomorrow.
Like everyone.
It'll be coming to us tomorrow. It'll be coming to you as fast as USPS can get.
Just like everyone. Every place around. Car parts delayed, right?
Everything.
What? Do we not have trucks running anymore?
Well, no, it's the breakdown of society. You know, where the breakdown of all of the systems. I'm ready for it. I'm looking forward to it. You know,
roll up your troll farms. John Wilburn, he's here.
Yeah, this is John Wilburn. Yeah, bro. I am all ready to go Mad Max. I am all ready to go Mad Max.
We're gonna take Mrs. Landy Mad Max style.
Yeah.
Actually, the Slag Hammer would be the better Mad Max car.
I have a whole fleet of Mad Max cars. I can just any of them work.
Oh, Mike Cantrell, you're stuck in Illinois. I used to be stuck in Illinois.
I like Illinois.
It's a great place till you enter Chicago. See,
I spent a lot of time in the Chicago suburbs because I worked for a guy named Mike Fazer, really great guy. Fuel oil called the Chicago Fire. He was out of Naperville. So I spent a lot of time going to and from there. And I grew to really like the place.
Tom Hughes is asking Dallas what kind of advertising is going on for the AHRA. Well, really, our budget is
what you guys,
almost none.
Right. That's why you guys got to buy stuff. So he's got budget so we can advertise.
But pretty much Facebook, and then what we get from these shows, and then word of mouth. That's about it. I mean, have you really ever started from zero? That's where I started at.
I start everything from zero.
Well, you know, Quayne Stott. Quayne Stott runs the Southeast Gassers. He said, you started at zero and you still have every bit of it left.
Still have 100% of it.
So,
do we have any white shirts? No. What do we look like? No, that alternative lifestyle stuff is for other people, man. We have black shirts with white lettering. I mean, think of the white lettering.
Right. Well, if you walk in front of a car with a white shirt on, guess what color it is? It's now black anyway.
It's Andy from Unity Motorsports Garage. Ahri, what's happening, brother? Tony, it's 1,000 acceptable clearance for my mains. Ooh, that's tight.
Yeah, it was real tight.
That's real tight. Yeah, I would want to see 2.5, man. Yeah, that's really tight, Ahri.
And that's on that slant motor, isn't it? Is he running?
Yeah, he's building a slant 6.
Yeah, that's way too tight.
Yeah, that's dangerously tight, Ahri. Oof. I got sweat in my hands. We got any paper towels?
Yeah, I got some right there. in the box.
Dude, it's legitimately like 100 degrees in here right now. Ah, thank you.
Yeah.
But we sweat so you don't have to.
Yeah, or we freeze. In the wintertime, the garage is cold.
Yeah. Yeah, we've now covered all of the seasons, all of the various weather
I know.
conditions.
You know, and the sad part was everyone was jealous. We were here in Tennessee breaking into Cam in November, and with the garage door open and everything, and we thought we had it made, right? But that's legitimately like the best season in Tennessee is fall, because it seems to last just as long as summer.
Yeah, fall. We get a long fall. We get 2 months of like really 3 months of summer, and the rest of the year it's we get 3 months of summer, 2 months of winter, and everything else is like spring.
See, Ahri saying, I officially bother you and Dallas as well as John and Andy about this. I'm satisfied. Well, I'll tell you exactly what do you want to know. Ahri want to know what the exact factory tolerance numbers are?
Ooh, do you have them
I do.
for Slate 6?
Oh, I got it for everything.
Oh, there you go. Lobo GTX, what's happening, man?
Where's Chrysler? Okay, Dodge Plymouth.
Marco Chickrelli wants to know what you did in the Navy.
Oh, I was a sonar tech. I found submarines underwater. And
His grandfather served 6 years on a battleship North Carolina during the Second World War. Yes.
that's some hardcore
The
stuff.
greatest generation. That is hardcore, man. Okay.
Okay, 225 slant.
Yes.
Okay. That's he's looking at mains.
Yeah. 2.5
Okay.
to 3, eh?
All right. Should be 5 10,000ths to 1.5. 5 10,000ths to 1.5 thousandths.
Yeah, no, that's not right.
That's the factory spec numbers. Now, I do agree. You want to see more like 2, 2.5.
Yeah. James Allen was saying 2.5. I think he's going from the same book that you are. That's wrong.
This is Chilton's 1973.
I'm telling you, that's wrong.
Now, that's just the factory tolerance numbers, right? Buicks are the same way. They got 6 10,000ths to 1.7, right? But I always do them at 2.5, 2.
Ram Air John WS6. Uncle Tony, can you help me get my 2002 WS6 back on the road? I live in West Nashville. Yeah, that could actually be interesting, man. What do you think? You want to take a shot at that?
It's an LS motor, right?
Yeah.
I don't see why it would be too hard. I mean, man, think about it. If the car's from here and it's from 2002, it won't have any rusty bolts.
I'll tell you what. Ram Air John, right? Get a hold of Dallas. Dallas, how would he get a hold of you?
Dallas at ahraonline.com and shoot me an email and I'll get back with you.
Yeah, that could be something interesting. We could definitely take a look at.
Yeah, whales and magma displacement is what I track, otherwise known as submarines.
Yes, Jean-Will Bernard said factory tolerance on either side of that spec will be a small number like that. The clearance itself is not. Exactly. Marco, did you guys ever play around with Predator carburetors? I have not.
I'm not, no history with it at all.
Jesse Waite says, Uncle Tony, I love your channel. Does your friend have his own channel? I loved old Buicks too. Yes, he's just starting a channel.
What is it? Well, I actually already have an AHRA channel, but we're going to do a AHRA drag racing history show.
Right. So
Okay,
it's going to be all drag racing history based around events that happen. I mean, certainly some NHRA, some IHRA stuff, but it's the AHRA drag racing history channel. and he's working on set up the studio right now for it. So that should be along within
The next
a
couple of
few
days.
right? And we're covering more Buick stuff. We're gonna do Buick intake exhaust manifolds and stuff like that soon, probably later on this week or early next week.
And I'll probably do once the racing season's over, I'll probably do a Buick channel.
Doug Nogden, is there a big difference between an Axel dual point versus a Mallory dual point? They're both good. It's 318 will run. What's happening, man? Hi, I'll just drop by for a minute. Dallas, I've owned a couple of 66 Buick specials. I love them both. My favorite Buick.
Yeah, well, the special is my favorite too because it was the budget Buick, right? You could either get the V6 in them all the way up to, well, I don't think you could get a big block in them, but you could probably get the pretty good small block in them. I know in the early specials you could get like the motor, the 215 that we got. You could have got that high performance power pack in a regular special.
Let's see.
The 454 in the Miata. I think the slant's going to live in there forever, right? The 170 slant. Somebody's saying put a 454 in the Miata.
No. I want to. It's an autocross car.
When Uncle Squirrel's saying that he usually sets 1,000th of an inch per journal diameter, right? Which is almost exactly like what who was Dave Vizard. Dave Vizard says they'll run even up to with like 4,000 clearance.
When we were running nitro cars, it was 4 to 5,000 on the mains, 3 to 4 on the rods. But yeah, no, 2,500 is about right on the mains of any big block, any Chrysler motor really. Slant 6, 318 was slant 6, small block, big block, Hemi, all of them around 2,500 on the mains. That 1,000 is way too tight. Gideon Wallace, Uncle Tony, would you ever do a flat drag car dirt strip? I don't know. There aren't any dirt strips around here. Ramir John, yeah, okay, yeah. Like I said, get a hold of him. That could be interesting. It could be an interesting thing for the channel.
Ruckwarts, what's the most nitrous you can put on a Buick 455? I personally have never put nitrous on a Buick 455, but I've heard if you're using cast stuff, you can easily go up to 125 pounds or 125 shot. Anything beyond that, you're really pushing the limits of the cast pistons. Now, if you got it built specifically for nitrous abuse, I imagine it's probably somewhere around the 300 mark is about the max you can go. Yeah. Because it'll start. I really think that block, the mains will start walking around on it and twisting up and collapsing main bearings.
Yeah, I think you'd be a little bit more susceptible to high frequency, bad harmonics on a Buick because of the construction of it. You know, also the thin web construction. When you get an engine, you get into not detonation like we hear pain, but that harsh, bad harmonic, right, which comes from extremely sharp combustion pulses. On a thin wall casting like a Buick, I could see that actually being more detrimental than let's say on a big block Chrysler, which has got a lot of meat for the casting. So well,
Steve Wise was saying Cadillac or Buick large displacement, do they weigh around the same? No, the big block Buick is light, really light.
So is the Cadillac.
Is it? Yeah, I can't see it being light as the Buick.
It's really not as, I don't believe it's as light as the Buick, but it's still light. It's still light.
Oh, Dallas, big block Buicks. Yeah, of course they'll take much higher, but you're going to have to spend some money on the bottom end. It's going to need main girdle. Sooner or later, you're going to need a main girdle on that because the mains are so weak on them.
Steve Pastore, the direct connection book says between 1,500 and 2,500 bearing clearance. It needs more than that. It needs, yeah, I know. Forget about what the book says. 2,500 is perfect for that engine. 1,000 that he has there is too tight. It's way too tight. No. So who got the pizza? We didn't weigh the car yet. Steve Wiz, what do you think about the 3.8 Buick with the hairdryer?
Oh, it's a good motor. Well, I mean, the 3.8 is based off of that 215 that we did the video on, right? And it's the block architecture on that one's very solid construction. It's deep skirted block. the rumor is the Buick small block will handle 800 horse. I'm assuming that the 3.8 is the same. And I think, you turn them up, they do all right. I think the big weak point of the 3.8 Buick with the turbos is the cranks, because they're no longer, they got the journals are separated on them, right? They're offset. Mm-hmm. So it's not like a regular V8 where you got 2 rods on one throw.
Right.
They're offset. And so I think it weakens the crank. And I think that's the biggest problem they've had. But most of the time, guys they easily handle 500, 600 horsepower.
Let's see. So how we wish Buddy Ingersoll was still around. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Oh.
Greg McDonald, was the weight you measured in the Miata with or without the rear axle in it? It's with the rear axle in it. It's everything in it except the seats, carpet.
Your roll bar?
I'm not going to put that back.
Okay.
The seats, the carpet.
The taillights, the wiring for back there. It's mechanically complete car. That's what the weight we gave was. Now the question is, what is it going to weigh? What is it going to weigh on the road? Uni Motorsports Garage, aluminum girdle. Oh, okay. I saw that before. It was between steel and aluminum. Yeah, the same thing with aluminum main caps. Aluminum main caps suck up a lot of bad harmonics. Well, you know the coolest part? There used to be a company called Poston that did nothing but Buicks, and they were like out of Georgia. Mm-hmm. They built an entire aluminum girdle that was an oil pan. It was a modular oil pan, and you bolted it all together. Oh, it was so slick.
I've seen stuff like that.
I wish I'd got one before Poston went under.
Walter Millen, did you figure out the weight difference left to right? I haven't looked at it. The car's sitting exactly where it was.
I looked at some of the comments on the video, and somebody brought something up that's pretty smart. One, your battery is supposed to be offset to that side, right?
Right.
The other thing is the factory spare tire set off to that side, too.
No, it's not. Factory spare tire is in the center. But that's besides the point. We never checked the tire pressure on it.
No.
So we don't know what the tire pressure is.
No, and I walked around to the corners, and I resettled the car, and I lifted it back up twice, thinking that maybe it wasn't centered on the plates, but that's the number I came up with.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, tire pressure will vary the amount that's on.
Right.
So that's why I didn't when I saw the corner numbers, I didn't really think anything of it because wasn't looking for it. I was just looking for a total weight. I never filled up all of the tires to the same pressure, so those corner numbers don't mean anything to me yet. That's why I didn't say anything about them really in the video.
Mr. Will's asking, hey guys, what oil pump is the best to run on a Buick 455 built that dynoed at 475 horsepower? I run a stock oil pump. Most of it's volume. You open up all the passages for volume, right? But he says he's running about 30 to 40 at idle once it's warmed up with 1040 with 9.5 to 1 compression. That's fine. At idle, the rule of thumb for hot rods used to be 10 pounds per 1,000 RPM that you're running, right? Stock Eliminator guys figured out that you could run them at as little as 7 pounds per
7 pounds per 1,000 RPM. That's what I've always gone by.
Yep, and your number is fine, especially at an idle. Now, when you rev it up, say it revs to $5,000, we should have probably at a minimum 45 to 50 pounds of oil pressure.
Los Cadaver, Dallas, New York, built up a 215 polished machine ports, yada yada. It has a very prevalent valve float at 5,000 RPM. No shakes, seems to run great. Should I double up on the stock springs or get heavy? You sure it's valve float?
I'm kind of wondering that myself, but the 5,000 RPM, those motors pretty much redline from the factory at 5,200. So there's a couple of options. That valve size in that 215 is 11/32, the same as a small block Chevrolet. You can get valve springs cheap.
The thing is, are you blaming an ignition problem on valve float? Because generally speaking, 5,000 RPM, yeah, unless it's got a huge cam with very severe events, I don't see you floating valves at 5,000 RPM. If you're talking about 6,000 RPM, it's a different story. But at $5,000, I don't think there's a stock valve spring out there that's healthy.
Well, and he says it's no vibration, right? And usually when they float like that, they vibrate pretty good.
No, it won't vibrate. It'll chatter. It'll miss, right? But Valve float sounds pretty much exactly the same as an ignition that's going away.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But
Well, I guess there's an easy way.
I mean,
to
did you
fix
check the spring pressure on them? You know, did you do the whole bathroom scale thing and check what the actual seat pressure is and what the, you know, you might have, you probably got something else. Runs perfect till 5,000 RPM. I'm betting you got an ignition issue. Carlisle, I keep saying Carlisle.
Oh, yeah, because you're supposed to stop in there, right?
Yeah, but I mean, literally, it's going to be hit and run. I'm stopping at Carlisle for like an hour or two on my way to Ray Barton's, and then back here to Tennessee. So, you know, if you're going to go to Carlisle hoping to run into, it ain't going to happen. Point float could be points. If it's got an HEI, it could be the module breaking down. There's a lot of things that will give you all of the symptoms of valve float. But 5,000 RPM, I would definitely suspect ignition before I would suspect valve float.
Is pinging lean? It can be.
Can be.
Yeah.
Uh,
Try fattening it up and see what happens to the ping.
Ultra Kathy's bathroom break. Did she go to the bathroom?
I have no idea. Speaking of the bathroom,
Oh.
you know, you never got back to the building a motor in the bathroom deal.
No, because we picked it up at the shop.
Well, now I think it's probably the ideal time to do it.
Because of the AC?
Right. Plus, it gives you the opportunity to kind of work in solitude.
Bro, I got too many other things going on. I can't even think about. Okay. Buick Performance Support Channel. My 455 my Regal had bad valve springs. It just stopped pulling on a set of 2-year-old valve springs. I mean, it does happen. But it's more likely an ignition issue than it is a valve spring issue. You know, unless you're talking about race stuff. If you're talking about I'm assuming he's talking about like a mild street engine. It's a 215 Buick, right? Unless he's got a cam with very severe events. I don't see it floating springs at 5,000 RPM.
Yeah, I had a lot of clapped out junk 350 Buicks, right? Like you just take them right out of the junkyard and put them in the car, and you might put an oil pump in them or something like that, but nothing too extreme. But it was clapped out junk, you know, 80, 90, 100,000 miles, when that was a lot of miles back in the early 90s, right? And they'd all rev to 5,200. And they have that heavier valve.
Los Cadaver is using it for an AMC Eagle Rally car.
That's cool.
That is cool.
So you got an AMC Eagle with a 215 Buick. That's awesome. Hey, Uncle Tony, you should plug Jason's garage. He's putting in the effort.
Consider him plugged.
Does AHRA have a full-size truck class? Well, nothing necessarily for full-size trucks. We did have the GT class, and you were allowed to run a truck in that. But right now, I would have to say no.
Ron Nelson, Uncle Tony, it's time to stop smoking the tobacco. I didn't know that. Damn. Thanks, Ron. I'm going to pretend I didn't read that.
Oh. Let's see. Mopar Den says, love the 430 in my 68 Electra. I'm putting together right now a 400 Buick for my Suburban. And that'd be the first time I've had a small cubic inch big block Buick. I can't wait to see how it actually goes. I'm hoping it's got the freight train torque. I didn't need all of it. It was pulling up the grade at the Appalachians going 65, and I was passing semi trucks and kids in cars, and it was like, I don't think I should be pulling this camper at 65 up this 6% grade, right? I mean, it was cool, but definitely, I think I have a little room to lose a few foot-pounds of torque.
Hey, Ahri, when you check the, I'm assuming you use plastic gauge. When you check the clearances on that, you did use plastic gauge, correct? Because if you did Did you do it completely dry, like no more than just like a light coating of WD-40 or something? You didn't have any oil on the crank or pre-lube on the crank when you checked that clearance? Okay, so he's saying yes. You used plastic gauge. Was it completely dry when you did it? Because when you use plastic gauge, you can't have you can't just oil. You can't oil the bearings and then do the plastic gauge. Dry your sin. Just hit them with Sim Solve. Huh.
What's Sim Solve?
I'm not sure. Some sort of solvent.
It should have way more clearance than 1,000. Did they turn the crank area? Is it like a 1010 crank and you only have 1,000 clearance now? Did I tell you I got a Buick 455 in a trade one time and it was locked up? The guy's like, I don't know, it's been rebuilt. I can't figure it out. Well, I took it apart, it had been rusted. So I got cam and lifters and everything out that was rusted. And I put it all back together, and I could not turn the sucker. Well, I pulled the crank out, and at first I pulled the main caps, and I stuck some plastic gauge on them, right, and it was like 3 inches wide, right. I'm like, oh, okay, what the hell is going on here? And the crank is stamped 1010, and it had just been turned. When I checked it, it was 7.7.
I always, whenever I have a crank cut. Whenever I have a crank cut, I always tell them to go 1,000ths more than it's supposed to be. So if we're going for a 10-10 cut, I tell them to cut it 11-11. If it's a 20 cut, 21-21, right? I always add an extra 1,000th of an inch because you're always better to err on the side of loose than tight. Tight is what gets you in trouble. Loose is, loose, happy, right?
Yeah, we talked about this before, right?
Yeah. Tight oil clearances lead to very high temperatures.
It also leads to premature bearing wear.
Yeah.
Mid Muscle says loose, everybody or nobody will know. Tight, everyone will know.
Right.
When should a crank be cut versus polished? Oh, you know what, Joe Brennan, that's a good question because if you ask 10 different machinists, you're probably going to get 10 different answers. If you ask me and Tony, you're probably going to have completely different answers than what the machinist would tell you. Most machinists like it to be perfect, right? That's what I've found. And you can have some scores in there. You can have a little bit of wear.
Factory cranks are surface hardened to a depth of about 1,000, 1,500. It's just a surface hardening treatment. So anytime you cut factory crank, and there are some cranks that aren't hardened at all, right? But the cranks that I generally deal with are all surface hardened, they're all nitrided, tough dried. So as soon as you cut them, that goes away. And then if you want that hard surface again, you've got to send the crank for that kind of process. And it generally costs more than the crank is worth. So I avoid cutting at all possible costs. I don't mind a couple of grooves. That doesn't bother me. I don't mind a pit or two here or there because it's just filled with oil. There's no damage. A pit or two is no big deal. The only time I really look to cut is if I find that the crank is oval. If it's egg shaped, then yeah, you have no choice but to make it true again. But if the crank is true all the way around, measures correctly all the way around, those surface imperfections can just be polished. And like I said, anything that like nicks and like chips missing out of it, they're fine, man. They fill with oil. They don't do any harm at all.
Yeah, you're looking at a hydraulic wedge.
Yeah.
That's how this thing works. Is it rides on a super thin layer of oil, right? So in Ahri's case, it's going to be 1,000th. It'll be half of the 1,000th, right?
Yeah.
So would be 5/10,000ths. But generally, what you're looking at when it's riding on that hydraulic wedge is the same thing that if you've ever put like a soda can on a table and the thing starts to float away by itself, right? And that is exactly what we're talking about. That's a hydraulic wedge. The weight of the water is supporting whatever you have on top of it. The soda can, beer can, whatever, glass. it doesn't really matter how much weight you put on it because that hydraulic wedge is supporting it, right? The same thing is happening inside an engine on your bearing all the time as it's running, right? The only downside is if you have cuts lengthwise on the crank, that's no bueno because that gives a place for the oil to escape out to the edges, right?
Yeah, but you also you need oil flow, right, between the bearing and the journal surface.
Right.
You need oil flow because that's your cooling.
Right.
Right. You got heat radiating from the piston through the rod, right? And the barrier, the barrier between the rod and the crank is that oil film, you know. So it's important to have oil circulating and splash, you know, flowing around the journal. That's why if things are too tight, if your side clearances are too tight, if the bearing clearance itself is too tight, you don't get that sufficient oil flow, and it starts to get hot.
So Andy's saying, being that tight, if the align bores aren't perfect, it'll eat the bearings from the start.
That too.
You know, maybe that's what happened to my 455. Well, no, it was a bent crank, you said, right?
Yep. Yep. That's what Andy's saying.
Hey, well, I did prime my 400 today. I did all of the oiling mods on. 50 pounds of oil pressure, right off. Perfect.
Do you need more water?
I do. You want some?
Yeah, man. That would be like awesome. Cool, refreshing water. So real. How much do aluminum rods stretch in reality? You know, that's funny, okay? The only time I've ever used aluminum rods is in nitro applications. And in nitro applications, the rod shrinks. It doesn't stretch. Alcohol cars, they stretch the rods. Nitro cars shrink the rods. And when they get around 5 thousandths short is when you stop using them. I don't know what the stretch. What's the stretch?
I think it.
Limit
Well,
on
I
aluminum
don't
rod?
know. I think each individual rod has, because it's all based on length, on what it can stretch, right? But I've always heard like, all right, my buddy had a 421 Pontiac. It was he had an old set of Mickey Thompson aluminum rods in it, right? From the
Those are
60s,
soft. Yeah.
right? Beat the snot out of it. Every year he'd freshen the motor up, take it out, measure the rods, and they were all the same length still, right? Put them back in. And then run them. And this was all the way through the early 2000s. He's running these probably 40-year-old rods, right? So, but I have heard anything more than 4 thousandths and you throw them in the trash.
Yeah. Oh, well, I guess the shrink on a nitro rod was about 5 thousandths and you throw them away.
Right. And Greg McDonald brings up a good point. Depends how high of RPM is used on the rods.
Yeah, it depends on the condition that they're used in. Uncle Squirrel says aluminum connecting rods manufacturers machine the rods literally. Okay, short of. Okay, yep.
And that's one thing I've never owned is a set of like GRPs or MGP aluminum rods. I mean, besides them being extremely expensive, you always got to have a lot of clearance to run them, right? And the Buicks, well, I don't know about the big blocks. The small blocks, the damn rods will hit the cam if you got the cam out of time. It's that short. So on the 350 Buick, the rods, as the throw's coming around, will actually hit the cam if you got the cam out of time.
Yeah, I could believe that. Old Geezer is running 2.2 on the mains. Okay.
Yeah, that's not bad right there. I've always heard 2.5 on the mains and 2 on the rods. It's kind of the ballpark you shoot for, right?
Yeah.
Oh, what about using cryogenics on rods
I like
and
to
crank
see
pistons?
3 and 2
3 on the rods?
On the mains.
On the mains?
2 on the rods. 2.5 on the rods even. Ron Nelson, don't the aluminum rods grow when they got? Yeah, they do grow, and I think when Uncle Squirrel was talking about how they're done oversized or undersized, I should say, from the factory, that's to do more with the extra growth than it has to do with actual stretch. But what happens is at a high RPM motor, they will stretch. They literally get longer. Where you measure them, put a couple of runs on them, and then measure them again, and they're longer.
So Miss Third is saying, did V8s use squirters on rods to cool the pistons? They do as of like 2002 on up, right? Anything before that, you're probably not going to find anything with oil squirters.
Some engines had oil squirters going back to the 50s and earlier. God, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
I've never seen one.
Really?
Yeah, I know small block Fords don't have them.
Slate 6 has a Slate 6 had them in 1960.
Really had oil squirters on the pistons. But he's asking V8s. Do you know any V8s that had them?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Los Cadaver saying, I just gave my distributor and coil a once over on the 215. Looked fine until I looked at the button. It has a gray burn about the size of a dime.
Well,
it's arcing through the button on the cap. Then
that could be your issue. Some old Ford 300s have holes in the rods. Yeah, lots of engines did.
Oh, there is some with holes in the rods. A lot of the older Buicks have holes in the rods.
Those are oil squirters.
Right. Well, I was thinking more like the ones that actually have the directed squirt. You know what I mean? That's screwed into the oil galley with the banjo fitting on them, and then sprays directly onto the oil or onto the piston.
Send it. This is a good question. It's going to make me think. What's your opinion on the reasons for valve clearance dropping over time on shim under bucket engines, like some of the Japanese stuff?
Shim under bucket.
For valve clearance dropping over time.
It's getting less?
Yeah, valve sinking.
Well, if the valve was sinking, it would get more.
No, if the valve is sinking, it'd be less.
If the valve is sinking in the head?
If the valve is sinking in the head.
Is he talking piston to valve clearance? Because if it's sinking in the head, it's moving further away.
He's talking about lash.
Oh, the lash.
Well, there shouldn't really be any lash. It should be. I don't know. Senator says the theory has always been valve cupping or the stem stretching.
And see, it is getting longer.
Yeah, which would close up the clearance. If the valve gets longer,
right, it would get
close
tighter.
up the lash. Or it would
get tighter on the piston, I think is what he's talking about. He's talking about the valve cupping, and that makes sense. If the valve itself is malleable, if the valve is cupping and is stretching the actual head on it.
Polybun says, pretty sure he means the valve clearance closing up. He means sinking. Kills the lash. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be like he said. Either it's cupping, or it's etching away at the seat, or the stem is stretching. Geez, I don't even know if we're talking about the right question here.
I don't know. The latest polyhead engine of mine, the exhaust valve specifically lose lash. They get tight to the point that the exhaust valve hangs open.
Well, that's saying that you're losing seat rapidly.
That would probably be your non-hardened valve seat.
I would say. I mean, that's what it would sound like to me. Okay, send it. As a little background, I built dirt bike engines for a long time. As the engine gains hours, to me, a dirt bike engine is always a two-stroke, so I'm old school. As the engine gains hours, the clearance between the valve and come close. I think you're saying valve and cam come close. We always discussed why this was, and yeah, it's. I'm thinking you're losing seat, but yeah, the valve depending on the thickness of the valve, the material of the valve, yeah, it could be cupping.
Steve Pastori, I'm on the same page there. Wouldn't the valve sinking cause the stem to rise?
Yeah, and that would close up the lash.
I was thinking he was talking piston to valve clearance.
No, no, no. Valves could be tuliped.
Yeah,
right.
that's what I was getting at earlier. And that would make the valve longer.
If lash increases when hot, why more lash on the exhaust valve?
Because it actually expands more.
Uncle Squirrel
Just
wants
like-
to know if he can blame squirrels on the valve lash problem. No.
Well, just like the I just cut some pistons the other day, and for the exhaust valve you need 130 thousandths clearance, and the intake valve you need 80 thousandths, and that's because it grows more as it gets hotter, as the engine's running. Your exhaust valve is the one taking all the heat.
Numbnuts. Actually, Tom, you brought something up I never thought of. A valve stretching. Yeah. Well, it's they don't really. The stem doesn't get longer, but you know the way that you have a valve.
I do have some. Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. So the valve can tool it, right? So the stem itself doesn't get any longer, but this area here, you know, where it sucks in to meet the stem, well, that can pull away from the seat area, and that would close up your lash. Now, it depends a lot on the construction of the valve, the material of the valve, the operating circumstances of the valve. Like, for instance, you get into an engine that goes through like severe detonation cycles. When that explosion happens, when the detonation happens, it's punching directly up on the valve, and it'll pull down on the seat area, and that would close up your lash.
The other thing is, if you're running it too lean,
Yeah,
it will heat that valve up and
Yeah.
make it malleable, right? So as the spring in the rocker continues to slap it against the seat,
right,
it'll tulip that valve out.
Yeah.
Okay, vapor lock.
Right.
Wiener Bacon Art is saying vapor lock. Does the return line have to be after the fuel pump?
Most vapor lock happens in the fuel pump. If you've got a mechanical fuel pump in your car and you're experiencing vapor lock, most of it happens in the fuel pump itself. Because the fuel pump, remember, the fuel pump is the same temperature as the outside part of the motor. So if your motor is running, let's say, a coolant temperature of like 200, 210 degrees, that's the coolant temperature. The actual surface of the engine is probably 30 or 40 degrees hotter than that. That's the temperature that your fuel pump is operating at. Now, when you shut an engine off, this is very common with vapor lock. You shut the engine off. Let's say you pull up to the store, you shut the engine off, you go inside, you come out 10 minutes later, you start the car, it'll start, and then as you're pulling out of the parking lot, it'll die, right? And that's because the fuel in the pump itself boiled and created a pocket. So you ran off the fuel that was actually in the carburetor, but it wasn't able to pump anything else up in there.
Yeah.
So what you want is you want your pressure relief on the outlet side of the pump.
I had a Monza, had a 231 V6 Buick in it that was so terrible at that. And it sucked because you would get probably like a mile down the road and then the sucker just die, and you could not get it started. You got to let it cool off, and then that all that fuel condense back in the pump.
Plus, you got that small bowl in the quadrijet.
This was a 2-barrel, but it's still, you know, I think what was happening was it was boiling the fuel in the pump itself and vaporizing it.
Miss Third says, hey, Tony, I got a rear Mazda 323 hatchback, all-wheel drive turbo. Neat car. Pretty heavily modified. Love the Miata. So do I. And I'm an old man. Are you as old as me? I'm pretty old, man. I love that. I love your name, though. Miss Third. That's going to be on my tombstone. Wheelie King. Good point on superheating the valve. If it ever gets hot enough to anneal, that's the end of the story. It would be downhill from there. But I don't know, you're talking some pretty extreme temps.
Oh, yeah.
But you've got extreme temps happening in the combustion chamber under certain circumstances.
Especially when it's lean. Lean will do it easy.
Yeah.
And if you got lean and it's got way too much timing or it's detonating really bad, oh, that's the...
High compression motor, run lean, high RPM. Yeah. The forces that are going on inside that engine. But it's not usable force. See, that's the thing. Because it's happening at top dead center before the piston actually starts to create its downward movement. So, you've got these extremely violent conditions happening that don't add anything to power, just destruction.
What do you think about cool cans for vapor lock? Jason's garage is asking.
They don't really work. The cool can is good is good to keep the carburetor cold. But it's, first off, you have to keep it filled with ice. You know what I mean? On a hot day under the hood, the cool can is a drag racing thing.
Right. You go one block and the sucker's liquid.
Yeah. But that wouldn't do you a bit of good for what's happening in the fuel pump. Danny Board says clothespin on the fuel line act. Well, yeah, clothespins on the fuel line. I know it sounds crazy, but the wood actually wicks heat away from the aluminum.
I wonder if they make an aluminum clothespin. That would work really well.
Murder Nova. Hey, Tony, will you ever shave your beard all the way off? Probably not. No, I'm going to trim it, though. It's getting a little crazy.
Especially since it's so hot out. You should trim that sucker down big time. You'll lose a lot of heat on your face.
Oh, I'm all
right. Dry ice works. Yes. Dry ice does work.
Very Castro right now. Yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
Put clothespins on your beard, old geezer says.
Wild Rose Garage says his Moroso insulated cool can keeps ice water for a good hour or more of street cruising. Okay.
That's cool.
That's like, for what street cruising is one thing, but I'm thinking in terms of like daily driver, because like my stuff is all daily driver. So it's like I'm not going for a cruise. It's like this is my regular transportation, so it's a little unpractical. But you're right. Most people use these older cars the way you're talking about, where you're going to go out and cruise it or take it to the track, whatever. So yeah, you're probably more right than I am, honestly.
Okay, Dakota's Time asked, where Dakota's Time Out? He's actually asking a question, and he got timed out. Damn it, I was trying to read that. He said, where do you think the term three-quarter race cam came from?
That was back. Okay, during like you go back to the 50s, the early 60s, right? When all of this stuff was like new, people didn't really grasp cam specs. You know what I mean? The way we do today, we're much more sophisticated today than they were back in the old days. Like we're way ahead of them. They didn't understand things like lift duration, the lift duration at 50, lobe separation. They didn't understand any of that stuff. They didn't know what numbers were big, what numbers were small, or anything like that. So the easiest way to identify a cam was you had a full cam, a full race cam, a street cam, three-quarter race cam. So in other words, like it's not quite all the way to being a race cam. That's how those guys used to talk about it back in the days when they were racing. Flatheads and the small block Chevy was a new thing, right? That's how they referred to stuff.
See, Ahri saying, John said it was a marketing term Iski used.
Yeah.
And I don't doubt that at 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like that 5-cycle cam we were talking about, right?
Right.
And the guy was, when you had the cam wars going on, any advantage, you should get it over your competitor. I mean, it made all the difference. 3/4 of a cam. I'd like to think it's 750 lift, right? At the valve, it's 750 lift. That's 3/4 of an inch. Full race, 1 inch.
1 inch. Stevie 1013, you inspired me to pick up a ZZ4 73 Nova. Excellent. It's been a great experience. Thank you for that. Thank you for acknowledging it. And thank you for joining the world of hot rodders.
Oh, somebody's 63 Rivy was subject to vapor lock. First time, huh?
Surprise.
Yeah. What about the 30-30 cam? I've never heard that before.
Mike N, what's a safe operating temp range for a 383? I always found that they run best around 180, 190. They're really happy there. Wild Rose Garage, an Isky 400 Junior is a full race cam. 400 valve lift for the flathead. That's a lot of lift for a flathead.
Somebody says a 3/4 cam is what goes in a V6.
Duntov 3030. Yeah, I've heard of that, but I don't know what it is. The 3030 is a Corvette cam, John Wilburn is saying. What does the 3030 refer to? Is it like 230 at 50? Is that?
All right.
Oh, Dakota's saying, okay, I thought it was something an unknowledgeable person came up with. Well, to be fair, the term is generally used by unknowledgeable people these days, but it has its roots in like common terminology from 60 years ago. $30 means the lash.
Oh,
Really?
that's way too much lash.
That's a lot of lash. 30 minutes to 30 miles, whichever comes first.
Racer Brown cam in a 340. Isn't that where he got famous from? Was Mopars? Racer Brown? I mean, he was famous before that, right? Like in Hot Rod Magazine, he used to write for Hot Rod.
Yeah.
But he really made his mark in the automotive community in Mopars, right?
Yep.
Mopar
Yeah, did a lot of
camshafts.
specific grinds for the Mopars.
Take advantage of the exhaust valve of the small blocks and
So, but I'm curious about this 3030 cam now, like, because I've never, like, I've heard the term 3030 cam, but I had no idea what it was. And you're saying that that's the lash. I've never heard of a camshaft being
That's a lot of
by
lash.
its lash, and that is a lot of lash.
that's quite a bit of lash.
Jeff Starch, thanks for making me feel old. We're all old, man. Stevie 1013, when are you coming up to Virginia to review some cars? We've got a ton of oldies and a few JDMs for you to run on your channel. I'd love to have you up. Bro, it's hard for me to get away. Very hard. Oh, thank you. Very hard for me to get away. John Wilburn, though, is there in Virginia.
Lives there.
Yeah. Hook up with John Wilburn, and maybe we can all do something together. But for me getting up there, it ain't gonna happen, man. I got way too many things happening right here. It's hard for me to just leave the shop. For me to leave the shop is a big deal because I just got so many things I need to get done. Steve says, I can't say I know who that is. Does he have a channel? He's right here. John Wilburn. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 people down from your last comment there. Mr. Master Din. Apparently it needs that big of flash because of the way they ground it. And it's no longer done that way.
That's interesting.
I gotta look at. See, I'm curious about that now. Yeah, see now tonight instead of binge watching Green Acres until I fall asleep,
You're gonna Google.
I'm gonna Google. I'm gonna find out what the 3030 cam is. You know, that's the only way I could really fall asleep at night. I watch Green Acres. If I don't get a couple of episodes of Green Acres in, I'm like all like,
Mine was always like I'd find something to read, right? Like I was reading. Is it Dean Koontz? Top Fuel Wormhole? I was reading
Oh,
that.
Cole Kuntz.
Cole Kuntz.
Cole was a friend of mine, right? We were
Uh-huh.
both writers. And when things started to get political, he cut me off. It was weird.
Really?
Yeah.
3030 or Eva Gabor. Let's see.
Shop living is the life for me. Yeah, exactly. Jimmy DeFeo. Who's Jimmy DeFeo? Ahri?
Tore apart some millennial and got in it for harassment.
I have no idea.
Oh, lash on the 3030 was 12 thousandths.
Okay, now what does that mean? We went from the lash being 30-30 and now the lash is 12,000.
You know, I'm going to have to Google it right now. I just got to know. I've never even heard that term, 30-30 cam.
Mopar Man 78, the blonde is annoying on Green Acres? What? Ahri, my brother had to change his YouTube name. How do you know that, Ahri? Did I miss something here? I must have stepped into a different reality. No, Mad Dog says, does the Miata axle wrap in the opposite direction? No, just like any other. Yeah, Jaja. No, it's not Jaja, it's Eva Gabor. I wasn't crazy about Jaja. Ahri, yes, you missed his chat. I'm not that stoned, I swear. Oh, there's James DeFeo. There he is. Yeah, I'm ignoring. No, I'm not ignoring you. I didn't see you, man. Why did you? What happened to your old name? Why are you using James DeFeo? All right, let's get away from Green Acres and all that. Let's go back to Harnet's Garage. The reason it became the 30-30 cam is because it ran so much better with the lash open up to 30 thousandths of an inch hot. That's what I found on Google.
Oh, all flat tappet cams, the more lash you give them, the better they run.
Wild Rose Garage is saying the 30-30 cam lash is 12 and 18, so 30 combined. None of this makes any sense. This is like we've gone down the Duntov camshaft wormhole here.
I'm in it right now. I'm way in there. The 097 cam.
$65 Muzzy. Why won't the torque arm mounting work on the Miata? On the Miata, the torque arm. Okay, picture this.
Okay. Here's something I found.
Wait. Let me just do this real quick. On the Miata, there is no transmission crossmember. They use that PPF as the transmission crossmember and the pinion support. So that's when you take the original Mazda transmission out, there's no place to mount that original piece. So now my car has the transmission mounted to the car, so it doesn't require that anymore. So that's why it's not in there, and it wouldn't fit anyway. Yeah.
All right, so the Duntov cam,
yes,
is the 097, and it's a completely different camshaft than a 30-30. Okay, those two words combined is like saying it's two completely different camshafts, right?
Okay.
So the Duntov cam was the 097, and then what they did is they introduced the 365 horse and the 375 horse 327 camshaft completely just for racing, which is the 30-30 series camshafts.
Oh, no, wait. I don't want to sound like an idiot, but I'm going to sound like an idiot. What does 097?
That's the end of the part number.
Oh.
So it became the 097 cam.
Okay, because I'm like, did they invent a new specification?
No.
Okay. PW says it was the perfect cam for tapping deer.
So the term 30-30 is a reference to the solid lifter cam's valve lash settings assigned by Chevrolet. No shit. While the 30-30 cam does not recommend lash settings upward of 30 thousandths for both intake and exhaust, the Duntov camshaft uses a much tighter recommended lash of 12 and 18 thousandths for intake and exhaust. The 30-30 cam is a solid lifter performance camshaft, but it is an entirely different camshaft altogether from the 097 Duntov cam. So we're getting two things kind of mixed together here. But since I'm not a Chevrolet guy, this is completely foreign to me. And I'm assuming since you got all Mopars in your fleet, this cam is just about as foreign to you as well.
Well, but I built a lot of Chevys. So it's like, it's not that I'm not a stranger to Chevrolets. But in the meantime, I've got Uncle Kathy having words with a landscaper. She's going to war in front of the house over there. But at least my dogs have pup cups. That's important. And Mopar Den sent $10. Thank you, sir. Replacing the worn-out rear leaf springs on my 66 Belvedere to convertible, I can go with the 5-leaf factory setup or the optional 6-leaf that claim a 2.5-inch lift. Which would I use?
Oh, it's a 66 Belvedere 2 convertible. That's pretty heavy.
Yeah, convertibles are back heavy, man.
I'd stick with the factory. I think you're going to lose the factory ride height.
Well, 5-leaf factory or the 6-leaf to claim a 2.5-inch lift. That might be a bit much.
That's too much.
Yeah, that might be a bit much.
I'll tell you what, there's an easy way to do it, Mopar Den. Go out and jack the car up 2.5 inches from what you got right now, from the tire to the
well,
wheel.
You can't really do that because the springs are already worn out.
Already sagged.
Yeah.
Well, see how 2.5 inches looks jacking it up with what you already got. If that looks ridiculous, it's probably going to be worse.
No, but I mean,
springs.
if his springs are shot, he jacks up 2.5 inches. It's probably going to look about right. But now, if he goes with springs that are 2.5 inches taller than stock, the car's going to have like a
stink bug stance.
Stink bug stance. Jeez, I don't know, man. I would find somebody who's actually done that. I would go on one of the Mopar groups and like on Facebook and ask around there. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I think that would be a bit much. Mike B, what's with the water? Did you get in trouble for drinking beer? I know beer. He drinks beer. Did you get in trouble for drinking beer?
No. I just haven't had. It's too hot to be drinking beer, and I just get dehydrated if I don't drink. If I drink too much beer and I've been working outside all day.
James Kaiser, Uncle Tony, when is it okay to run a catch can instead of a PCV valve? Those are not.
He's probably talking about an oil catch can, right?
I almost always, on anything that I drive on the street, always gets a PCV valve.
I use a PCV valve on my Ford with catch can because it pulls 25 inches of vacuum at idle. It will suck the oil right out of the motor.
John Wilburn saying do a 2.5-inch lift springs with 2.5-inch lowering blocks and air shocks and shorter tires. It'll come out of perfect height.
Ruckworth says jack it up, paint the differential white, add some lights.
You could do that too.
It wasn't that the 70s Street Freak thing?
Mm-hmm. Drink some Jack and start telling stories. I drink one shot of Jack. I lay down on the floor and fall asleep.
Air oil separator, exactly. Okay, Brian Powers asking, any idea why did Ford would use lower lift cams in trucks in the 80s for trucks with drive in the 300 i6 versus trucks with autos or granny gear stick shift? I'm sure it probably has to do with torque development at the RPM at which they're trying to operate the engine. I mean, if we're comparing apples to apples here, you're saying that the trucks with the granny lower automatic got more lift than the trucks without a granny low or just a 3-speed automatic, or no, without a granny low, with an overdrive. So they keep it at lower lift, at lower RPM, right? Yeah, I think they were trying to develop more low-end torque to work with that overdrive. That's what it sounds like.
Yep. Okay, what do we got here? Brian checked into the loony bin. Who's Brian? Hemi Kuda says he's allergic to alcohol. Every time he drinks it, he breaks out in handcuffs.
That's me on gin. If I drink gin, oh, that's me for sure. I always get in trouble with gin.
Cabral, what about Cabral? Brian Cabral, he checked into the loony bin?
What did he end the show?
Evidently, yeah. Evidently, he's done making videos, which I kind of feel bad about. I was honored. You know what I mean? I know you're saying all kinds of stuff, but it was like, you know, I had a whole channel devoted to me. So, you know.
That's the most sailory thing I've ever said.
What did you say?
If I drink gin, I'll be getting in trouble. Right? The last time I drank gin, I was peeing off the roof of a house in Guantanamo Bay on the base police. That's how bad it was.
See, I'm a super happy drunk. You know what I mean? Like I'm one of those, you know, it's just like I just go, I'll hug strangers and shit. I'm just a happy fucking drunk, but I also do really stupid things.
That's me on gin. I don't know why.
Because I have no how can I explain it to you? I have no like limits. You know what I mean?
Gin has no sugar in it. Oh, yeah, well then totally sign me up. Yeah, I only drink on special occasions. Like that one time I finished that engine I've been working on for like 3-4 months. And we had that Wednesday night show. I had drank way too much already when we had the show.
James Halloran, Tony, have you used the green axle bearings instead of the tapered adjustable? Yeah, they're fine.
Oh, well, Eureka 7 Wave is saying, how many cars do you think were ordered with the Hemi that were moonshine runners?
Not many. By the 60s, that was all done.
Well, they're still doing it today, but nobody's building a moonshine runner like that.
Yeah, nothing. No, but even by the 60s, the moonshine thing was the Prohibition days, and then like immediately after the Prohibition days, and then like during World War II, there were limits on alcohol. You know, but like by like the 1860s and the 70s, no, that was all over. I'm sure there's always that story about the guy who bought the '66 Coronet with the Hemi to run moonshine, and yeah, I'm sure there's the odd one here or there, but it wasn't really a thing at that point.
You know, I was wanting to build something for the Cannonball. You know, like literally bonsai trip from New York City all the way to LA, right?
Right.
I was wanting to build something like, and it would be like a moonshine runner or whatever, you know, because that's kind of what you're building, you know. But I really wanted to do the Cannonball and see if you could break the record with something really odd and different.
You know. Here's the thing, right?
Okay,
I always wanted to run the Iron Butt.
The Iron Butt?
Yeah, it's a motorcycle
race,
but it's an endurance thing. Okay, it's not a speed thing.
Right.
Okay? The Cannonball, I don't know if I want to be that alert for that many hours straight.
Well, wouldn't you swap out drivers?
You still have to be alert. Like there's no, you know what I mean? Like think about it. Okay, so you and I are going to do this. Okay, we're going to go run the Cannonball.
Right.
Which would never happen because I would never drive cross country with another guy. I could never do that. You know what I'm saying? But that's besides the point.
Oh, 2-lane blacktop?
No, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I could go like 20, 30 miles with another guy in the car. Other than that, no. That's the difference between Top Gear and Roadkill. See, Roadkill, they pile all these guys together wearing like shorts and sandals and stuff, and they drive around, right?
Right. Top Gear, they're all doing
Top Gear, they're like, you go in your car, I go in my car, and let's keep our fucking clothes on.
Right.
But the Virago's 1100 is a great bike. But even if you're just in the passenger seat, you're still a navigator. So for 3,000 miles cross country, you've got to be completely fucking alert, watching this, watching that. It's like that's a very high stress thing. I don't know if I'd want to deal with that.
Huh. Yeah, I was wanting to do the cannonball thing. I thought it'd be kind of cool. You know, we had a track up in Maine the first year I did the AHRA, and it was 18 hours from here, and we would literally drive straight up there 18 hours and stop only for fuel and to take a leak, right? And I drove it one day all the way back from Maine to here, like by myself, just behind the wheel. And that's what gave me that idea. Like, man, could you run the cannonball like that?
It would just be like that's a high stress thing, man.
He says build 2 cars. Mike B says build 2 cars for the cannonball. I'll run blocker for you. Yeah, you could do it on a bike.
I wouldn't want to do it on a bike either. Let me tell you, I had my high stress life.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? My previous incarnations of me, I had the high stress life. I don't want any more stress.
Man, we should come up with a new cannonball. You know, from like Nashville to Alaska or something.
The ultimate iron butt run. That's the one I wanted to do from Miami to Anchorage. That's the one that I wanted to do.
Or Peter Kovacs, he's right. We do it from Texarkana, right, to Atlanta.
I never really saw that movie.
What?
I mean, I saw it in the 70s when it came out, but I've never seen it, so I don't really remember any of it.
I think it would be kind of cool to do that. Texarkana to Atlanta, and you have nothing but like 75, 76, 77 Trans Ams do it, right? Coors Beer Run. You know, and what was funny is, have you guys, well, a lot of these guys watch YouTube. There's one of the guys that was like an intern for Hot Rod Magazine that was on Hot Rod Power Tour or whatever. He ended up, like, it stopped in like New York City or right outside New York City. So he had a Gremlin or Pacer wagon maybe.
Okay.
Put 2 auxiliary tanks in it, two auxiliary fuel cells in there, and then stopped and got his ticket punched at the taxi stand and hauled ass all the way to Los Angeles. And I mean, they were running 100-something miles an hour in this Pacer wagon, right? And the sucker broke, or it kicked a fan belt or something like that in like Nevada. But it's a video on YouTube, to be honest with you. Was it a green gremlin?
All right, well, he's doing that. Tony, is there a difference in gauge sheet metal for floor pans and body panels on a Roadrunner satellite? No. They're all exactly the same.
Yeah, green gremlin with 150 shot of nitrous. There you go. That's what it was.
Let's see. Hornet wagon. I love Hornet wagons.
Okay, so Eureka 7 Wave is saying, oh, here's a question for you guys. My Newport currently has 15x7, but I want to run 15x6 rims. The speedometer is off by 5 miles an hour. I heard that putting a 32-pin gear would fix that. Would that work?
32 tooth gear. It's probably the width of your rim. The width of your rims would have no bearing on speedometer count. It has to do with the diameter of the tire. Even the diameter of the rim doesn't matter. It's the diameter of the tire.
You probably have a taller tire than what was originally on the car, to be honest with you.
Yeah. There are calculators for that. If you go, just Google Mopar speedometer gear calculator, and it'll give you a tire diameter, gear ratio, and all of that, and tell you which gear you need. And they go by colors, by the way. The Mopar gear, the speedometer gears. So it'll tell you, you know, this diameter tire, this gear ratio, use the green, you know, or the yellow or the blue or the whatever. So,
Well, Chris Cox is here. Fab Race Mod Repeat, guy from Speed Oasis. So, and you said you got your slicks, huh? You got them mounted up on Plan Z yet?
No, haven't touched it. I've been working on other stuff. Wild Rose Garage. Narrow rims make the tire more diameter. Well, forget about. He didn't say anything about which. If he was putting the same size tire on there, you know. But it's the overall rollout of the tire that's going to make the difference. It's Kayla Pendley. What's happening, Kayla? Kyla? Is it Kayla or Kyla?
Yeah, that Gremlin had a straight 6 in it.
B Dan 1234. Do you think spraying nitrous before the carburetor would be an issue? I have a blow-through carb turbo car and want to add a single fogger pointing into the turbo. What do you think?
Well, they used to make a kit that went above the carburetor.
Right.
Remember that?
Yep.
And it had fuel and air, or fuel and nitrous, I believe.
I think it'll be all right.
I think it'd be fine too.
It's Kylo like Kyle, but A. Okay.
My dream car was a Bandit TA when I was a kid. Yeah, but like you and 500,000 people. I remember them suckers being everywhere. And that was the one, and it was like, say, 1990. It was the one nobody wanted at that time. You could have bought them cheap.
Ben Compton, ever had a desire to do an old Nissan Z? Yes, I love those cars. I had years ago, I had two 240Zs, and oddly enough, both of them were brown. It's like the worst color for that car. But I'm talking about way, way long time ago. I would love to do something with one of those cars. I just don't have it. There's nothing on my radar right now for that. But yeah, I'm a bug for those things.
David Tristan, that's right. He's saying, I think adding nitrous after the carb would be more ideal as the engine might draw in slightly more air in that configuration. It's actually better to have the nitrous after the carburetor. Everyone, I mean, that's kind of how all the kits are made. The only reason that they had this one on top of the carburetor was because you could technically just hide it in the air cleaner. You didn't have the base plate. So it was more like a street racer trick kind of deal going on, is what that was. But it doesn't really matter really where it's introduced, as long as it has the opportunity to atomize the fuel and the air. If you have fuel and air. If you just have what do they call them, a dry kit, where you got it on a fuel injected car.
What I'd like to know is what's the car. Oh, I don't know about this. What I'd like to know is what's the correlation between carburetor size and nitrous? Because I would think that if you were trying to optimize a nitrous combination, you would want a smaller carburetor so the motor's forced to inhale more of the nitrous.
You mean to increase the effect of the Venturi's themselves, and then
decrease the volume of air going
through the carburetor.
Through the carburetor.
But make it more apt to use more nitrous then.
I would think, wouldn't the extra air coming through the carburetor dilute the nitrous?
This is where we need our own damn dyno for this stuff. Or your test car, right? And because you could really test that theory out.
You could test that theory. Well, I mean, I'm sure Richard Holdner has played with that. That sounds like a Richard Holdner.
Holdner is even on here today.
I don't think he's here, but that's something I gotta ask him about.
You know, like, let's just do carburetor swap while using nitrous to see what really happens. Same cam, same motor, just 4 or 5 different carbs. You know, spread bore, square bore, small, big, way too big, right? What happens?
Matt asked Tony, my C171 AC compressor just started clattering. I think I might need a small can of oil. Still works fine. It's cool. It's pretty decent. And it's probably the clutch going out. It's probably the bearing or the clutch going out.
So Wild Rose Garage is asking, Tony, when you have a divided dual plane and cut down the divider, does the motor act like it has more CFM going to it?
Yeah, it's the same as if you added a spacer.
Right.
You know, you add a spacer, you're fooling the motor into thinking you've got more CFM than you actually do.
Right. The big thing is, like, if you look at it from pro stock terms, they used to call it plenum volume.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Plenum volume is what dictates how fast the velocity of air moves through there. Right. And when you cut that down, it increases your plenum volume because it allows it to share volume across that divider. And it really helps with performance on a dual plane. Now, it does introduce some drivability issues sometimes.
Dakota says Richard Holden was talking about his intro music on his live the other day, and I told him it sounds like a mechanical bull riding music. He thought that was funny. I can see him riding a bull, right?
Yeah. Well,
yippee-yi-oh. Yes.
Bog City, yeah, you could definitely. It could be a bog problem with that big plenum volume like that. Oh, Tom Muse just made an awesome video about plenum volume. Huh?
Oh, there you go. Everybody check out Tom Muse's video on Plenum Volume. Jeff Starr asks, can you use a wideband O2 to measure the nitrous mix?
Yeah, I don't see why you couldn't. I mean, it's gonna, as long as you're using gasoline, or you're using the same fuel for your carburetor or your engine as you are the nitrous, right? Like some guys will do cross mix them, like E85 and nitrous, because you can add more timing that way. You don't have to pull as much.
Justin Newberry wants to know when Bottle Rocket is going to the track again. It was supposed to go this last Saturday, but we didn't make it. The 17th. We've got the 17th right now. July 17th is penciled in as the next time out for that car.
And so when
hey, thank you, Steve.
When I do my Frankenstein motor, as everybody calls it, it's probably going to get the plenum divided. It's got a divided plenum. I have to use a dual plane intake manifold.
Okay.
So I'm going to try that trick, cutting it down, but I'm going to also try a few more things too.
Steve Pastori wants to know, have you ever done a video showing how to determine your rear end gear ratio? I've never done that video.
Oh, I can tell you the easiest way to do that.
Well, let's do it in a video.
You want to do that?
Yeah, do it in a video.
Okay.
I mean, we know how to do it, but
right.
A lot of...
Well, I know, like, most guys don't want to do it the way that I do it.
How do you do it?
I pull a cover off and you count the teeth and divide by
you could do that.
That's guaranteed the number.
UTG track rental. We're seriously considering doing that because it's gotten to the point we really need to have our own. Because you got to remember something. Taking a car to track is one thing. Taking a car to the track and attempting to shoot video and do all of this stuff is another thing entirely, completely different. So that's why you see, like, the Motor Trend guys, they rent tracks and they go and they do what they got to do, and they got the whole day to do whatever they've got to do. And we don't have that luxury. So that's something we're definitely looking into with the track in Etheridge.
Yeah, well, and you got to think of it from your perspective. If we go to the track, you guys don't look at it from like how things are here. I know you all follow Uncle Tony, but if we went to the track and you showed up at the track with us, what would you do? You would come over and want to meet him, shake his hand, pat him on the back, tell him how much you love Bottle Rocket. But imagine every person at the track trying to do the same thing, right? Track, just like shaking hands, kissing
one
babies.
problem, but then the other problem is, like, okay, where are we going to shoot this one? Okay, go over there and shoot from there. Well, I can't shoot from there because the light is wrong. Well, go shoot from over there. Well, I can't because they won't let me in the thing over there. And in the meantime, we still got to work on the car, get it over to the lanes. And some people come over, hey, love your show. Hey, and you got to talk to them for a minute. And then it's like, there's just no peace going to the track. It's like it's a very stressful situation. So we're looking at trying to figure out ways to make it a little bit more, because like I said, it's not just like, for us, it's not just going to the track. We got to go to the track and work and make videos. It's not easy. It's not
Can you tell us if Bottle Rocket's 318 is over 400 horsepower? Yes, that's easy to determine.
I know I'm going to ask you. Is Bottle Rocket's 318 over 400 horsepower?
Yes.
Okay. Dry or sprayed?
I'd say it's probably pretty close to 400 horse on the motor.
Yeah.
And then once you spray it, it's probably close to 550.
That's about what that's what my seat of the pants tells me, and that's what the 60s tell me. It's approximately a 400 horse motor, dry, and throw nitrous on top of that.
Hey Tony, what would you value a 400 cubic inch automatic or auto box and rear end out of a derby car?
Well,
has it been derbied yet?
Jonathan, that's let me tell you something. All right, I got an opportunity to pick up a 99 Grand Cherokee for short money. And I was thinking a big block Mopar swap into one of those could be a very interesting package. And I was like, I need to find myself a complete big block auto trans. So if you're in the area, Jonathan, if you're anywhere near Nashville, let me know. I might be interested in that.
But if it's been derbied already, cheap. If it hasn't been derbied and they're taking it out to put something else in there, you can probably get it for regular core price, $500-$600. We used to say 100 mile an hour trap speed was 400 horsepower. That's what Ruckworth says. We never got it down the track to get a mile an hour on it, right?
Yeah.
So
the only full pass the thing ever made was slipping the clutch like crazy.
Danny Boyd, derbied ? Seasoned block. I think that's like there's a difference between seasoned block and roached block, right? That's generally when they get hot like that, they are freaking garbage. That's like the overdone block or well done. Would it be called well done? You're beyond seasoned. And I'm a true believer in that seasoned block. I really am. I always take like very used blocks to make them into performance stuff.
There's a guy local to me that races a Nitrous 408 stroker Jeep Cherokee. He runs low tens and it's 4-wheel drive with 6 on all 4 wheels. Yeah, it's a neat concept. This is a Grand Cherokee, and I want to make it more of a luxury kind of like a highway cruiser.
You know what you should do? Take the two things and mix them together. You got your Grand Cherokee, mix it with the Chrysler Cordoba, the rich Corinthian leather, and
it's already got the Grand Cherokee.
Right, loaded. I know, yeah. And make it like your Cordoba, right?
Yeah,
or Cordoba, and then cruise it down the highway at freaking 85 miles an hour, getting 14 miles a gallon.
That's what I was thinking. I could pick up this car for $400. It's got a clean body, clean interior, but the motor's launched.
Right.
Mr. Din says it's over seasoned.
He says, Need Metal says out of season. Out of season. Yeah, I've seen some of them derby cars run so hot that they actually can't shut them off.
Right.
When they turn them off.
Yeah, because they're running on oil. They suck in the oil and the diesel.
Miss Third says it's Canada Day tomorrow. I'm not working. Have some gin, my friend. Or wait, what do they got up there? Canadian whiskey. Motorhomes are great for season blocks. Yeah, as long as they didn't get overheated and jumped out.
Most motorhomes very low mileage.
Oh, right, but they've that's what's good about the motorhome motors is they were used and abused hard for short miles.
I have a motorhome 440 in my '66 Charger. That thing, Uncle Kathy put it together. We re-ringed it, turned the pistons around. Car runs like a horse, and that was a motorhome engine, and it was brand new in there. I mean, like zero, like cylinder. The crosshatch was like as if it just got put together.
Right. Well, most of the stuff I get is completely roached to begin with. It's just, you even laughed at some of my heads, like, what's this gray crap coming? That's what I was asking you about, was like, man, I'm getting all these motors with this gray sludge coming out of them. Oh no, Freiberger's going to have an episode about what? Piston flipping around?
Glamper Van Adventures. Love you. Thank you, man. That's right. Uncle Kathy, Ultra Kathy, turned the pistons around.
Motorhomes are basically just driven, not abused. I have to agree, or I have to disagree with that. You ever seen one of those suckers climbing a hill? I mean, they're driven, yes, but they're driven hard. That's what I'm getting at.
Jeff Starch says the gray sludge is from water. No, Jeff, the gray sludge is usually rings. It's ring and cylinder wall wear. You ever take a super high mileage engine apart and you just fish around at the bottom of the oil pan? There's always that gray sludge in there. That's the cylinder walls and the rings.
Yeah, these are engines that have been sitting for a long time, and you never find it in the pan. You always find it like the oil galley be completely full of it, right? You knock the plug out of the oil galley, and it's like gray goo just runs out of that sucker. And then it's thicker than motor oil. And then usually I got to use kerosene just to dilute it to get it down.
Scott Smith. Tony, it was great meeting you today. Scott from, oh, hey, Scott. It was nice meeting you, too. You got me on the run, man. I was like, today I was all over the map. I was like, so you caught me just at the absolute worst time. But, yes, it was very nice meeting you.
Maybe that's what we should do, is do it. The Cannonball from Nashville to, or we can do it Texarkana to Atlanta, but it's got to be a motorhome, right?
I think you should do it and send me texts telling me how you did. Stony Man. Hey, Uncle Tony, what do you use for rust prevention or preventative? Mozzarella. I like to use fresh mozzarella, and I cover the part that I want to protect in a thick, nice layer of mozzarella, and that you'd be surprised how well that protects. Chris Greenaway, he's finally here.
Didn't you were talking about Cosmoline, right? Did you ever use Cosmoline for
I've never used it.
No, I've never have either. I've used grease.
Unity Motorsports is checking out. Good night, Andy.
John Wilburn saying he'll do a Texarkana to Atlanta run. I think it'd be kind of cool.
67 2E Galaxy says Capicola works good too. Yeah, it's Capicola. But yeah, you could say Capicola. Yeah, unfinished project mozzarella. You've never heard of mozzarella? They put it on pizzas, right? It's a very common cheese, and it works it's an excellent rust preventative. If you need to, let's say, protect the crankshaft, you just cover those journals with mozzarella. So not only is it a rust preventative, but it's extremely tasty. From Hunchworks Wonders. Miss Dirt hates cheesy cars. Even Mutz? Come on. And yeah, Ray Brentsyke has never seen a rusty pizza. And that is exactly where I got the idea from. Because I was like, have you ever seen a pizza rust?
No,
Never,
I haven't.
Right? What do you think the magic ingredient is?
It's got to be either the mozzarella or the tomato sauce.
Tim Miller, motor oil pump primed with drill and one push rod, no putting oil, new lifters, one no oil, try with valve cover off. I don't know what you're saying, Tim.
It sounds like he's got one that's not putting oil out the push rod. And okay, is this a small block Ford, Tim Miller? Because I've seen small block Fords do this before, and a lot of it has to do with lash.
So no, we got a lot of Italians here tonight. Joe K says Galamad, right? But honestly, bro, do you want Galamad on to protect your? I don't want that. You want your parts to taste fishy?
No. But I do like some calamari.
Ruckwarts wants to know why Buicks use aluminum oil pumps.
No, well, I really think it's because it's external of the motor, and you could actually have almost any kind of oiling configuration type pan to fit in any type of car, right? Because if you think about it, Chevrolet is mounted in the pan. That limits the design of the pan, right? It can only be, rear sump in that case.
Gabagool never rusts. He's right. I would think that it's because it's built into the aluminum timing cover. Well, that they would use
the aluminum
so that the expansion rate is going to be consistent.
That could be it. I just think it was to move the pump from inside the motor to external, right? So it gave them almost a configuration to put it in almost anything. I mean, I put it in a 95 Mercedes.
No, we're saying that they use the cover for it.
Right,
aluminum.
It's aluminum. Right. He's asking why they use aluminum.
Yeah.
Right.
And the timing cover.
Well, the timing cover is aluminum, right?
Yeah.
It just makes the most sense. But any more thoughts on a diesel slant 6?
Yeah, actually, we have thought about it. But I'm not going to talk about it right now. I had an old Italian neighbor that used to cut the heads off chickens in the front yard. Yeah, Italians are brutal like that. When I tell you, I think I told the story here once before, right? When I was a kid. Oh, Gage Gonzalez, thank you. Great channel you've been looking for a while. I really enjoy it. GM man my whole life, becoming agnostic because I'm refurbishing my wife's grandfather's 84 Ram 150 with a 318 for her and my son. Can I email you email to help me spec it out? Send an email to UncleTony'sGarage@gmail.com and put just put attention Tony Gage, and I'll have Kathy will show it to me. So when I was a kid, I lived in Brooklyn, and it was an Italian and Jewish neighborhood. It's always Italians and Jews always went together. I know more Yiddish than I do Italian, right? So anyway,
I noticed that when you always said schmutz.
Yeah,
I got schmutz in the carburetor, and I'm like, well, I've never heard anybody say that before.
So I essentially grew up Jewish, but what happened was I was a little kid, and the backyards of the house in Brooklyn. This is off 18th Avenue. There was like an alleyway, and it ended up on 18th Avenue, and there was a Chicken Delight, a chicken store, okay? And then directly across the street was a Jewish market, and on the side they had a chain link fence with chickens, and the Hasidics ran this. So what happened was the Hasidics, they when somebody ordered a chicken, they would go the guy would go out into the pen, grab a chicken like this, and swing it over his head. Throw it down on the ground, and that's how they did the chickens in.
Schmuck is foreskin. Well, that's about all I know.
Mad Dog wine was made by Morgan Davis, right? Mad Dog 2020.
Oh.
Kyle Teal, what is the really good RTV that people use like it's glue for engines?
I use the Permatex, what is it, Good Stuff or whatever?
When I want to glue something to an engine, I use 3M yellow weather stripping adhesive. No, I'm serious.
For like gaskets?
Yeah. If you want something to stay forever, okay, yellow weather stripping adhesive.
I found the ultimate beyond all of that.
Yeah.
You know that paint that we talked about the last show, the oil shedding paint,
Yeah.
Gliptol.
Yeah.
If you put Gliptol on something and then you put RTV on it, you cannot get it off. You cannot. I had to like chisel the oil pan off this motor. Had a cork gasket in it, but that thing was stuck on there so hard. I'd never seen anything like it in my life.
You say they have black weather strip adhesive now? Yeah, I know they had black then too, but I was introduced to it as yellow, and so I've always used yellow. And like for instance, when with the fuel cars, the valve cover gaskets, we would yellow weather strip adhesive the gaskets to the valve cover, and then talcum powder on the other side. So you could take them on and off, on and off, on and off. I mean, like 100 times, and the gaskets would stay good. The same thing with the intake manifold gaskets. We would use yellow weather stripping adhesive and attach the gasket to the intake manifold and then talcum powder it, and it would last forever. So that was the habit that I got into, and I still do it to this day.
You don't they call that yellow stuff Gorilla Snot?
Yeah.
Oh, Indian Head, I still have some of that.
I got some Indian Head. I never use it though.
Yeah, I use that Permatex right stuff or good stuff or whatever it is.
Goblins of Gixinator says dried macaroni and cheese hardens like steel, and he's right.
Have you seen all these videos where they're like, the people are filling in stuff with like ramen? Have you seen that the videos?
I've seen all sorts of things. Andrew Miller, thank you, sir. Tony, I just want to say thank you for your video recommending G-bodies and your amazing field assessment video on buying a car led me to a pristine Cutlass on top of a 73 Olds 455 into. Excellent. Lots of mods, headaches, and fun ahead. Yep. Good shit. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Ultra Gray. Yeah, Ultra Gray is good. French Onion says mac and cheese is a poor man's JB Weld.
You can drill and tap it.
Corpse Grinder wants to see more G-body videos. I would like to do more G-body videos. The other night we were at the track. There was a black Malibu that was just beautiful. I wanted to do something on that. We did shoot a quick video on a very cool car. We're probably going to run tomorrow. There's a small block Chevy swapped TR7.
Oh, Triumph.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was running 7.0s.
In the 8th mile?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He's got $2,500 on the whole car.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to find a clean G-body myself, but
you got that beautiful Buick right there.
I know I got enough stuff on my plate. I need to get to that too. The Grand Prix 2+2 rarest G-body. Don't see many of them around. You know what? I would agree with that. I've only seen 2 of them in my life, and they were both in Hawaii. And so you want to know something kind of cool about Hawaii back in that time frame? Was the cop, and it's probably still the same way. The cops out there don't get a police car. They got to go buy their own car to be a police car, and then they get subsidized for it or whatever.
Okay.
So these guys go out buy Grand Nationals and that Pontiac 2+2s, and that was the freaking police cars. I scored this Monte Carlo SS that was out there, and it had a shiv and the stuff down in the back seat and a dime bag that had rotted. You know, it was all up under the seat, but. I just thought that was interesting. There's a lot of neat stuff out there. To tell you the truth, the 455 Buick and a G-body Regal, my dad swapped a 350 Buick into a Regal in about 1987. And that, to me, is the simplest, easiest, best swap you can do. Because it uses the V6 motor mounts, all the brackets, everything lines up just like it's factory. And it'll run down the road, get 18 miles of the gallon, and they'll run 15s in the quarter.
Dave Gondier says, you guys rock. Congrats, Dallas, on your YouTube channel. Best of luck, brother. AHRA.
Well, thanks.
Let's
Thanks,
talk.
Dave.
Let's talk about that channel for a second.
Yeah.
Paul Notarangelo, hey Tony, you still thinking about a Slant 6 and a Fiero? No, no, I got so many other things I got to get doing. Hey Olive, how are you, sweetheart? Let's talk about the new channel.
Yeah.
So it's called the AHRA Drag Racing History Channel. And what we're going to do is
Drag Racing History Show, right?
show.
We're just going to throw it on my channel that I already got, aren't we?
Well, you got to have a title for the. I would change the name of the title to match the show because that's
Okay.
what people. That's the crawler is going to pick that up.
Oh, all right,
You know?
gotcha.
Or just add another one.
I was just going to throw it up under the AHRA channel.
You throw it up on the AHRA. Like, I'll explain to you how that works.
Okay.
Right. But he has access to the archives of the whole history of the American Hot Rod Association. I mean, people right away think of the NHRA, right? Because the NHRA is always the big guy, but the AHRA was like where the innovation came from. You know, a lot of what we know today is drag race culture. So like all began in that whole Lions, you know, drag strip, and that was, you know, super influential all the way through. So Dallas has the archives, like all of everything having to do with the history of the AHRA. So we're going to do regular shows. We'll probably
I don't have everything. There was a lot missing.
There was a lot missing.
Oh, yeah, like all of it.
I thought you told me you had the whole thing.
No, I don't have anything.
Then how are we going to do this channel?
I don't know.
We'll have to fake it.
Make it up.
We'll make it up as we go along.
Yeah.
You know, it was a long time ago. You could say anything, really.
Yeah,
People believe it.
The first class that AHRA put together was dinosaur drag racing.
So we're gonna do a regular feature, like do a couple of them a week, of significant moments in drag racing history. You know, from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. You know, everything from the Nitro band to the
Junior Fuel,
Pro Stock, Junior Fuel. So many different. It's gonna be, you know, if you got a bug for vintage drag racing, you know, classic era drag racing, you're gonna get a lot out of this. You're gonna have a lot of fun with this channel.
And then some of it we're just gonna make it up and have fun. But I do have a few pieces of significant history, but we're just gonna try to do our best.
And my friend Steve Magnante he's starting. You know, he's done with Motor Trend. They canceled this show, Junkyard Gold. So he's going to go hardcore in his YouTube channel, and we're gonna work together. In fact, we were texting back and forth today. We're gonna talk on the phone a couple of days and set up a plan, right? So he's gonna hit it hard. And I honestly think Steve has such a deep, well-rounded knowledge and love for everything car. I think he's gonna have millions of subscribers.
You know, he was one of my favorite writers for period,
great.
Hands down.
He's better than me.
Well, I don't know if I read any of your stuff. I honestly don't. You weren't really in my genre, right? You're doing all the Mopar stuff?
No, I was doing everything. I wrote for Superstock. I wrote for Hot Rod. I wrote for everybody.
I didn't read a lot of Hot Rod. I read a lot of Carcraft because
I never wrote for Carcraft.
And the reason why was it wasn't necessarily, they were Camaro craft for a long time, right? Because it was always the cheap stuff. But then after a while, I started picking up on other things, you know, and that's what made it good. But I always liked Magnante's writing style. I met him one time, and you know, I'm actually kind of a geek fan of his. That I'm telling you, the 318 that he sprayed it till it just puked its guts out is one of the coolest stories I ever read in Hot Rod.
IC2 Kid thought Steve was still doing shows for Motor Trend. No, it was 4 episodes. That was it. The model car show was only 4 episodes. I think they've only aired 1 or maybe 2 at this point, but it was 4, and then that was it. So no, he's done with that.
Yeah, well, his funny car stuff is the stuff I like. His take on funny cars.
Yeah.
I really like that stuff.
He's so well-rounded. That's why I'm telling you, he's going to end up with millions of subs. We're all going to work for him eventually.
Well, I just want to meet him. But again, I guess I met him at Hot Rod Power Tour 2003. Did I ever tell you I did that thing? And I did it for like the super duper cheap price. Everybody was getting all these hotel rooms, and I went and bought a tent at Walmart, set it up in the parking lot, and then we just sat out there getting cars to do burnouts, and the next thing you know, it just got to be everybody's hanging out there drinking beer when the whole thing is over, and we would do burnouts in the parking lot. But
Craig Chido, UTG and Motor Trend are the new East-West Coast rivalry. Holder is stuck in the middle. Motor Trend is on its way out, guys. I got to tell you, they're circling the toilet like rapidly. Everybody's heading over towards YouTube. Motor Trend, I don't think is going to be a thing at all. A reasonable amount of time.
Day in the life of a nitro racer. That'd be kind of cool.
Well, I kind of did that. Ron McGonigal, I worked for Ron McGonigal for a little while. Actually, Ron McGonigal wanted to set me up as the East Coast editor of Hot Rod Magazine, and it's just we couldn't work things out, so it never happened.
Buick motor with square pad over exhaust port. What is it? Square pad over exhaust port. I got literally like 5 different heads here, and I do not see what you're talking about. Square pad. Do you see like square pad?
No.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Not sure.
Yeah. Roy G. Biv, can you explain? Yeah, left side.
Air injection port boss, Danny Boy says.
No. Is he talking about like the stove, the heat stove? What's the left side? Driver's side?
Yeah, left side is driver's side.
That's the heat stove?
I have no idea.
Yeah, but the EGR on a Buick is up on the intake manifold generally.
Let's see. Maybe he meant the thermactor passage.
Oh, is he talking about on the intake side? Are you talking about on the intake side, Roy G. Biv? Air injection.
What's this now? Dimitri Petokis. Well, I just saw something there. What was that? Hey guys, I have a 65 Dodge Cardinal 444 door with the 273. Seems to have a lot of crankcase pressure. And the guy who restored it had put a PCV valve going back to the carb. Is that normal? Yes. Not only is it normal, consider it necessary.
If it's got a lot of crankcase pressure.
If it's got a lot of crankcase pressure, it means your rings are gone.
Yeah, it has blow by big time.
Yeah. And it'll be a lot worse without a PCV valve.
68 Riviera motor. Well, all right, so Roy, you don't have any air injection on 68 Riviera motor. 68, okay, what I think you're looking at is you're talking about on the exhaust side directly above the Siamese ports on that 68 430 motor, right? That
I have no idea.
He's got the big port heads, and they're the only ones like that.
What is it? Oh, right. I remember we were looking at that.
Right.
That looks like it's for an air injection system.
Right, or something of that nature, but it's just cast in there. It's not drilled or anything. That's the over the exhaust ports. All right, Roy, so 67, 68 Buick big blocks, which was your 400 and 430 at the time. The 430 came with the big port heads, especially in a Riviera. Those are big port heads. That's the big dogs. Left end port.
Well, I'll just do this real good. Thank you guys. There's a breather cap, a permanent option. No, Dimitri, listen. You need to have the PCV valve in one valve cover and an open breather or a breather, period, on the other valve cover. So it's got a circulation path, right? You need both, the PCV valve and a breather. I use a PCV valve on everything. Okay, I don't have one on Bottleneck. I don't have one on Plan Z. But I use any street car, anything I drive, like at all out on the street, always gets a PCV valve. I consider it to be an absolute necessity.
Roy G. Biv, go ahead and send me an email at dallas@ahraonline.com and send a picture in that email, and I'll see if I can help you out. I don't I don't quite understand what you're talking about. I think maybe I'm lost, or, but I'll do what I can.
Draft tube.
I don't. It's a rail that's cast into the head, but there's nothing drilled on them. That's how you identify the big port heads, Roy. George Grinter saying, "Hi guys, I'm sorry I'm late to the party. Did you see today's video on smarter every day?
It's a slow motion carburetor special. No. Let's see. Can anybody provide a link for I Was a Teenage Pit Slave article? I mean, I wrote that when I was like 23, I think, in Cars Illustrated magazine. Dimitri, so I should keep the tube I plugged in and replace the PCV. Got it. Thank you. Yes, keep the PCV valve, plug that into the base of the carburetor. If it's a stock tube barrel, it's a BBD. You got the port there for that. That's specifically for the PCV valve. So you run that, and on the other side, you run a breather. But if you've got a lot of cylinder pressure or a lot of crankcase pressure, it's because your rings are gone. Carburetors are the future. I firmly believe that. And we are running out of time. Guys, we're coming up on 2 o'clock. Oh, 2 o'clock, 2 hours. See, I've been going since 5 o'clock this morning. I'm toast. So, guys, do I run a vacuum pump? No, I use a pan and vac. I use a plumb it into the headers.
Wild Rose Garage asked, does a PCV do anything under wide open throttle? No, because you have no vacuum.
So, our mods, right? John, Ahri, Fubar, Zero. Thank you guys so much. As always, your packages are on the way. We're a little bit behind. We still haven't gotten our merch yet from the printer. So, but everybody contributed super chat. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. It's what keeps the wheels turning over here. Dallas, AHRA online, right? So you can join the AHRA, right? And he'll send you a giant poster, and
I will.
Yeah, and stack of 20s, and a ham.
And what do you call it? Mozzarella.
Mozzarella. You're not gonna send mozzarella.
Yeah,
to these people.
You got to keep your crankshaft from getting rusty.
He'll send you ham, very very nice ham. So join AHRA online, okay? And then we got AHRA History Channel online. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm done. I can't think anymore, guys.
Hey,
I'm so sorry.
We'll see you next Wednesday.
Yeah. So Sunday night, we'll be here at 7 o'clock, our usual Sunday night show. And we'll be back here next Wednesday with Dallas. And maybe we'll be shooting it at the shop next Wednesday.
Oh, you want to do that?
I'm going to try to get, I got to get the place, set for that. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much. Conrad Francis, how hard is it to get one of those large AHRA posters? We were just talking about that.
Yeah, it's hard because shipping is murder. But I had some banners made, but man, they are not cheap.
Yeah,
they're not cheap. So if you're willing, if you really want one, I mean, shoot me an email at dallas@ahraonline.com.
He could send you a ham. Why don't you send him a ham instead?
A ham would probably.
He'll send you a ham, right? And it's tastier than one of those posters. Good night, guys. Thank you. See you tomorrow.